Good morning and welcome to day 21 of Bible in a Year as we fall from Genesis to Revelation in 365 days. And this is the greatest love story between God and his people. We're following through the period of the patriarchs, and we're following the adventure timeline by Jeff Cavins. The Bible we'll be reading is the New International Version. My name is Pastor Jay Lutz, and today we're going to be reading through Genesis, chapters 39 to 40, where we learn of Joseph and his work for Potiphar in Egypt, his denial of Potiphar's wife, and in turn, his working in dreams of interpreting in prison because he denied her and was still accused of sexual misconduct. And today we're going to be reading Job 31 to 32, Job's final response to Bildad the Shuhite. And then the response of a new character we see. Responds to him, new person, Elihu, son of Barachel, family of Ram. And then Proverbs, we're going to be reading chapter 3, verses 33 to 35. Solomon talks about blessing, shame, and honor before God. So let's get into it. Genesis 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian, who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and of that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So he left in Joseph's care everything he had, with Joseph in charge. He did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servant was inside. She caught him by the cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servant. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him the story. "That Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." She burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that he had done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Chapter 40. Sometime later, the cupbearer and baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials. the chief cupbearer, and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the same prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned him to Joseph, and he attended them. After they had been in custody for some time, each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker, the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next day, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials, who in custody with him in his master's house, "Why are your faces so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they said, "but there is no one to interpret them." And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said to him, "In a dream I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in his hand." "This is what it means," Joseph said to him. "The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. For I was forcibly carried off the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon." When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given a favorable interpretation, he said to Joseph, "I too had a dream. On my head were 3 baskets of bread. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head." "This is what it means," Joseph said. "The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift off your head and hang you on a tree. The birds will eat away your flesh." Now the 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all his officials. He lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hung the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. Our next reading comes from Job, chapters 31 to 32. Chapter 31. I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a girl. For what is man's lot from God above, his heritage from the Almighty on high? Is it not ruin for the wicked, disaster for those who do wrong? Does he not see my ways and count my every step? If I have walked in falsehood, or my foot have hurried after deceit, let God weigh me in honest scales, and he will know that I am blameless. If my steps have turned from the path, if my heart has been led by my eyes, or if my hands have been defiled, then may others eat what I have sown, and may crops be uprooted. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, or if I have lurked at my neighbor's door, then may my wife grind another man's grain, and may other men sleep with her. For that would have been shameful, a sin to be judged. It is a fire that burns to destruction. It would have uprooted my harvest. If I have denied justice to my manservant or maidservant, when they have grievance to gain me, what will I do when God confronts me? What will I answer when called to account? Did not he who made me in the womb make them? Did not the same one who formed us both within our mothers? If I have denied the desires of the poor, or let the eyes of the widow grow weary, if I have kept my beard to myself, not sharing it with the fatherless, but from my youth I reared him as would a father, and from my birth I guided the widow, if I had seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or a needy man without a garment, and his heart did not bless me, for warming him with the fleece from my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless, knowing that I have influenced in court, then let my arm fall from the shoulder, let it be broken off at the joint. If I dreaded destruction from God, and for fear of his splendor, I could not do such things. If I have put my trust in gold, or said to pure gold, you are my security, if I have rejoiced over my great wealth and fortune my hands have gained, if I have regarded the sun in its radiance, or the moon moving in splendor, so that my heart was secretly enticed, and my hand offered them a kiss of homage, then these also would be sin to be judged. For I would have been unfaithful to God on high. If I have rejoiced at my enemy's misfortune, or gloated over the trouble that came to him, I have not allowed my mouth to sin by invoking a curse against his life. If the men of my household have never said, who has not had his fill of Job's meat? But no stranger had to spend the night in the street, for my door was always open to the traveler. If I have concealed my sin as men do, by hiding my guilt in my heart, because I so feared the crowd and so dreaded the contempt of the clans, that I kept silent and would not go outside. Oh, that I have someone to hear me. I sign now my defense. Let the Almighty answer me. Let my accuser put his indictment in writing. Surely I would wear it on my shoulder. I would put it on like a crown. I would give him an account of my every step. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land cries out against me, and all its furrows are wet with tears, if I have devoured its yield without payment, or broken the spirit of its tenants, then let briars come up instead of wheat, and weeds instead of barley. The word of Job are ended. Chapter 32. So these three men stopped answering Job, because he was righteous in his own eyes. But Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite, of the family of Ram, became very angry with Job for justifying himself rather than God. He was also angry with the three friends because they had found no way to refute Job and yet had condemned him. Now Elihu had waited before speaking to Job because they were older than he. But when he saw that the three men had nothing more to say, his anger was aroused. So Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite, said, I am young in years, and you are old. This is why I was fearful, not daring to tell you what I know. I thought, age should speak, advanced years should teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in a man, the breath of the Almighty, that gives him understanding. It's not only the old who are wise, not only the aged who understand what is right. Therefore I say, listen to me. I too will tell you what I know. I waited while you spoke. I listened to your reasoning. While you were searching for words, I gave you my full attention. But no one of you has proved Job wrong. None of you has answered his arguments. Do not say we have found wisdom. Let God refute him, not man. But Job has not marshaled his words against me. I will not answer him with arguments. They are dismayed and have no more to say. Words have failed them. Must I wait now that they are silent? Now that they stand there with no reply? I too will have my say. I too will tell what I know. For I am full of words, and the spirit within me compels me. Inside I am like bottled up wine, like new wineskins ready to burst. I must speak and find relief. I must open my lips and reply. I will show partiality to no one, nor will I flatter any man. For if I were skilled in flattery, my Maker would soon take me away. Last reading is from Proverbs 3:33 to 35. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but he blesses the home of the righteous. He mocks proud mockers. He gives grace to the humble. The wise inherit honor, but fools he holds up to shame. Wow. So this ends a reading. Yes, we see in Proverbs that God is He's the great equalizer. He brings curses to the house of the wicked and blessing to the houses of the righteous. He inherits honor for the wise, but holds the fools in shame. So it's a good God who continues to even the balances of life, to bring the humble up and the proud down. And we see this with Job, and today we hear with Elihu, and so Elihu isn't wrong here when he says he became angry with Job for justifying him rather than God. It's true. we should be justifying God and not ourselves, because we are not perfect within ourselves, but God is. And so we always should strive to justify the ways of God and not our own actions. And lastly, we look at the story of Joseph and his work. Even though he's wrongly done, Potiphar's wife, she wants what she wants, and he doesn't give her it, and so she begs, borrows, and steals, and to the point where she actually causes for him to get not just fired, but thrown into prison, accusing him of sexual misconduct, which he never does. But God always is there for those who are wrongly imprisoned, for those who are put in bad circumstances because of somebody else's selfishness. And so we see this happens with Joseph, and because of it, as a result of this, Joseph, it says, is given, assigned the attendance of caring for those within the prison. It says the kindness, he showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. And so he once again gets put up into a place of honor, and he eventually gets to translate these dreams for the baker and the cupbearer. Unfortunately, the cupbearer makes it, but the baker does not. And then the sad thing, as the verse ends, it says, the chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. And this is sad. But we'll see that this isn't the end. We know that God always is there for the righteous, those who walk in his ways. And just as he saw favor upon him for the prison warden, we'll see God continues to show him favor in all the things he does. My prayer for you today is that you be encouraged by this story to know that God is always finding favor for those who walk in his way in obedience to his will. I pray that God might continue to favor you as you go along. I pray this prayer for you. I ask that you might pray for me as we go along here. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.